There is so much talk out there among a lot of people, and some of those people are assistant coaches or possibly head coaches that with the transfer portal added onto this. So I believe this is the fifth recruiting cycle. Correct me if I'm wrong, of the early signing period in December. I believe this is the fifth cycle, something in that range. I might be
Something in
off
that
by a
range.
year.
Yeah.
Um, what wasn't occurring at that point was all this activity in the transfer portal. So now coaching staffs may have to deal with a conference championship game after the season. They 80 some of those staffs out of 131 teams have to deal with a postseason game to ready their team throughout December. They have to deal with the early, now what has become the National Signing Day, roughly December 15th. They have to deal with the transfer portal. They have to deal with retaining their own players from entering the transfer portal. It just seems like an onslaught of activity for these coaching staffs to have to deal with in December.
Yeah. And, like they're supposed to be coaching their teams, and you have all this recruiting activity. And of course, really I think the main problem I have with the early signing period is just that's carousel season. That's when coaches are being hired and fired. And so you're putting schools in a position where they have to make a move right away instead of being able to wait 3 weeks and choose. And imagine if we had National Signing Day, in February, we didn't have the early signing period. Schools could then take their time and vet candidates and maybe not hand out absurdly large buyouts as well. Like, this is a real thing in terms of why the buyouts are so enormous, why contracts are so out of balance. Like, there's an economic sanity component to the argument that we should go back to the true National Signing Day and not have this early signing period, because the schools will hire a coach quickly, and agents will put the knife to the AD's throat, saying, hey, if you want to get my coach in the door, you better pony up, and you better make it a coach friendly contract. Like, that's not healthy for anybody. That's not healthy. I mean, it's healthy for the agents and the coaches, but not for anybody else. And actually, even for the coaches, like, just throw them onto the recruiting trail in December. You have to retain this recruit. You have to retain this class in like 5, 7, 10 days. Like, that's madness. That's insanity. And we should certainly have a situation where we have the carousel season. December is for coaching transactions. It's for these coaches to get their houses in order in terms of where they're going to be employed, with their families, with their kids, who they're going to work for, who they want to work for. Like, that should be the time when they shop on the open market, and they make decisions about where they want to go. And you throw the early signing period in the middle of all that, it just doesn't make sense. So that really is the thing about why we should go back to National Signing Day in February, because you just can't put 10 trillion different things on a coach and coaching staff's plate in December. It should be carousel, get your job situated, and then, by the time the holidays arrive, then you can transition to, all right, now I'm going to recruit for the next several weeks. Like, January is recruiting month. That would be a sane structure. This just isn't. Now, I mean, for bloggers such as myself, like, this means more activity, more intrigue throughout the year. But, what's good for me and what's good for a blogger is not what's good for college football. You could find a lot of different topics that fit into that particular box.